So when you're working through these problems today, unlike the last problem, where it came out, on that last problem, when we took the square root of both sides, that square root of 49 over 9 turned out nice. This is not going to be so nice, okay? And in some of the directions today, it's going to say round to the nearest hundredth. And that means, yes, you're going to have decimals. In other directions, it's going to say leave as a simplified radical. So when that happens, depending on the type of problem, I want to show you how your answer looks different and how the process is a little bit different. For starters, it kind of works the same. It's when you decide that you need to be done is when it changes. Okay, so let me just show you that. So first off, you're going to square root both sides just like before. Make sure you have your plus or minus. Okay. And then, so the process ends up being the same. X plus 5/3 equals plus or minus the square root of 50 over 3. So the square root of 9 we can still do, but the square root of 50 is not a perfect square. Okay? And then, in order to get x by itself, I still have to subtract the 5/3. Now, here's the difference. Okay? When we get to simplified radical, I'm going to do this one first. I have to look at this and go, what's a perfect square that goes into 50? 25, right? This is 25 times 2. So I'm going to put this down here. So this would be negative 5/3 plus or minus the square root of 25 times the square root of 2 over 3. And we know that the square root of 25 is 5. Okay, so this is 5 root 2 over 3. That's as far as we can go. It is a simplified radical form. The only other thing that you could do if you wanted to, you don't have to, is you have it like this, negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 5 over 2, and put that all over 3. And this is the second half of your homework today. If it doesn't come out even, then I want them in simplified radical form like it is on the right-hand side here. If we're going to round to the nearest hundredth, you're reaching for your calculator, and you're going to type this stuff in. Now, you have a couple different ways to do this. Okay, so negative 5/3. I mean, you could type this all right in your calculator if you want, except for one thing. You have to have negative 5/3 plus the square root of 50 over 3 and negative 5/3 minus the square root of 50 over 3. Okay, and in the end, that ends up being a decimal. Okay, those things end up being decimals. How much of that you enter in at one time doesn't matter to me. You can do the square root of 50 right off the bat, see what that is, round that to the nearest hundredth, then divide it by 3. The order in which you do that doesn't matter. But I will tell you what you get out of these is this one on the left gives you 0.69, and on the right you get negative 4.02. So you have to pay attention to what the directions ask. If the directions say round to the nearest hundredth, you're going to have decimals. This is always if they don't come out exact. If it says leave it as a simplified radical, that means you can use your calculator, but if you have a number left under a radical, you don't turn that into a decimal. You leave it alone. And so you notice here what I did is I pulled out a perfect square, and then we were left with a number under the radical. All right? And so that's what's going to happen in those kinds of situations. So for the first half of the problems, you're going to round to the nearest hundredth. And for the second half of the problems, you're going to keep it in a simplified radical. This over here, these are exact answers. Okay? There's no rounding involved at all. When we round, these are called approximations. So if the directions ever say give me an approximation, that's when you know to round. If it wants an exact answer, and again, this is if they don't come out even. If they want an exact answer, you leave it in simplified radical form.